Hello and welcome back to All About Community. When we went to break, I told you that my next guest would be John Burris, attorney at law, noted civil rights lawyer. John, welcome back to All About Community. It's always a pleasure to have you here because you're going to always say something that is controversial and exciting.
Well, it's good to be with you always, Robin.
All right, well, good. Let's get right into it. And talking about the city of Oakland, what's going on here in the city of Oakland. We're going to talk about the firing of the police chief. We're going to talk about all kind of stuff. But 21 years or so ago, the so-called riders case, really, no matter how you look at it, is at the edge of all of this stuff, from the firing of the police chief with the federal monitors. What in the world is the riders case?
Well, the riders case is the beginning of it all. It happened as a consequence of maybe at least 4, maybe more, police officers who really took it up on themselves to enforce the law in a most criminal way. In many ways, thought that it was something that the then mayor sort of gave a pass to, and what they really did was they not rob people, but they would plant drugs on people. They would commit perjury. They'd really beat people up. They'd kidnap them, transport them around the city, and basically with a reign of terror. And there was these 4 officers who referred to themselves as the riders, and they were notorious. And we represented well over 120 people during the course of this.
And so who?
Me and Jim Channon, who was my co-counsel at the time. And at that time, Robert, I had already sued the city of Oakland a number of times. And so this sort of was an opportunity to pull it all together in one major lawsuit. I would have called it pattern and practice lawsuit. And so I used the case as an opportunity to really try and reform the department. This was a major, major challenge. It had not been done by private lawyers in the past throughout the country, although the federal government had come in on some cases and did their own investigation. It came out of the Clinton administration, where you can have the Department of Justice come into a city and look at the department and do a pattern and practice and basically get a consent decree. Unfortunately, we're not able to do that, largely because the Clinton people were going out, the Bush people were coming in, the Bush people were not interested. So we took it upon ourselves. And so what we did, after agreeing to $11.4 million or some number like that, we decided that we were going to participate in the reform of the department. And part of that is Jim and I worked with some experts, and we set forth a series of reforms with tasks. There were 55 tasks that were involved. It went really 55 tasks. And some of these were very dear to me at the time. Racial profiling was a huge one.
And that was dealt with fairly effectively, hasn't it?
It has been over years. So what happened is that we put these 5 tasks, 15 tasks together, 55 tasks. Surprisingly, maybe not so surprisingly, the department did nothing for the first 10 years to help get to meet the compliance. And we had
why did they do
because they did not believe in it. Yeah, there was no commitment on the part of the various police chiefs who were involved in it and the command staff. Nobody really believed that there was going to be any enforcement because one of the factors, the federal government wasn't involved. However, we did have a federal judge, and that federal judge was the overseer. He appointed a federal monitor. At that time was 4 people. 2 were women, ACLU lawyers. That one of the ladies is now on the on the California Supreme Court. Another lady is a professor at Georgetown, and 2 retired police officers. And so of the tasks, we were really talking about internal affairs investigations, the timeliness of them, the use of force, use of deadly force, executive reviews, racial profiling was a huge issue, consistency of discipline was a big issue, filing of complaints. And so what we had to do was that they were supposed to accumulate data. At the time, there was no data. And so the officers, anytime they stopped someone, were supposed to record information about that person, race, age, car they were driving, and the allegation that they supposedly committed. Well, what happened is these information was put on cards. The police department was just throwing these cards away. And so we never could get reliable data to interpret whether or not these allegations were in fact supported by facts or not. Finally, in 2014, we had hired a psychologist from Stanford, Dr. Everhart, and she put together a data sheet, if you will, that allowed for them to put the information in and to have this data collected in a certain way. So in 2014 was the first time we got reliable data. Now, we've been involved in this case now since 23 in terms of the settlement of it, 2000 from the beginning. So we're already 14 years into this case. And I'll show you what that meant, Robert. I've met literally every week, or at least once a month or twice a month, with representatives of the police department. We'd have this grand hearing. And then once every 6 weeks, we'd go before the judge. And there'd be this huge presentation. And the police would keep saying, we're going to do this, and we're going to do this, and we're going to get it done. And they never did. It wasn't until we got this data, and this data that we were able to interpret the data. Plus, we got a new monitoring team. Robert Warshaw and his group came in. Okay. They were all former police officers. And they came in, and they really sort of ran herd over the police command staff, ensuring that they were doing what they're supposed to do.
So progress after X number of years is finally being made.
2014, we started seeing, so I should say 2014, we started seeing some acknowledgement and data to support the issues that we have been complaining about. Then we're
going to have to go to break, but when we return, we will talk a little bit about where we were in that process of the federal monitor when the police chief was fired. Don't touch that remote. Put it down. We will be right back. It's all about community. My name is Robert L. Harris, and my guest is Attorney John Burris, noted civil rights attorney.